The Great Escape, the unstoppable saga of Colonel Streight and the Ghost Riders. Imagine this. It is 1863, the deadliest year of the American Civil War. You are a Union prisoner of war, captured after a brutal campaign, and now you are locked inside a notorious Confederate prison known as Libby Prison in Richmond, Virginia. A structure so heavily guarded and escape-proof that it was nicknamed the Bastille of the Confederacy. Now, imagine not a handful of men, but 109 officers deciding to vanish into thin air. This is the absolutely true story of the most audacious, complex, and astonishing mass escape in U.S. military history, the breakout from Libby Prison, spearheaded by an unlikely mastermind, Colonel Abel Streight, and executed by men who literally dug their way to freedom right beneath the feet of their jailers. The Bastille of the Confederacy. Libby Prison was not a typical stockade. It was a three-story brick warehouse on the banks of the James River in Richmond, Virginia. Its location was its greatest defense. The river was too swift and cold to swim, and the prison sat directly across the street from the busiest Confederate military barracks. The windows were heavily barred, and guards patrolled both the exterior and the dead space between the building and the river. The prisoners were Union officers, and amongst them was Colonel Abel Streight. Streight was a man of indomitable will, captured after his spectacular but ultimately failed Streight's Raid, where he attempted to cut the Confederacy's supply lines deep in Georgia. He was known to his captors as a particularly troublesome man, but they had no idea he was also a master engineer. In late 1863, the conditions inside Libby were appalling. Starvation, disease, and the constant psychological torment of being caged while the war raged outside. The men knew they had to act, not just for survival, but for the moral blow their escape would deliver to the Confederacy.
The tunnel, rat hole, and Straight's alley. The escape committee, led by Colonel Streight and Colonel Thomas E. Rose, faced an impossible challenge. They needed to dig a tunnel that would bypass the stone foundations, avoid detection from guards, and emerge outside the prison walls. The starting point. They chose the perfect yet seemingly impossible spot, a tiny, unused coal cellar known as the rat hole, located in the easternmost corner of the building. This cellar was dark, infested, and rarely inspected. Access was through a makeshift kitchen, requiring men to sneak past guards multiple times daily. The digging. The sheer logistics were a nightmare. The men used only rudimentary tools. Picks, a broken piece of fire shovel and an old table knife. Shovels, half a dozen spoons stolen from the mess hall. Lights, tallow candles made from fat skimmed off their meager rations. The men worked in shifts, digging horizontally into the dirt, then downward and finally tunneling the 20 feet needed to reach the other side of the courtyard wall. The tunnel itself was barely 20 inches in diameter, so small that the men had to crawl on their bellies. This section became legendary, Straight's Alley. The work was terrifying. The air was suffocating. The tunnel constantly threatened to collapse, and they had to listen for the rhythmic bootfalls of the guards above their heads. Disposing of the evidence. Where do you hide tons of dirt dug from a prison cellar? The answer was audacious. They hid the dirt inside the prison walls themselves. The men discovered a small, walled-off chamber beneath the hospital floor. They would secretly carry handfuls of dirt in pockets, socks, and even makeshift pouches from blankets, depositing it into this hidden room. It was a constant, nerve-wracking process of infiltration within the very structure of their confinement.
The Night of the Ghost Riders. By February 9, 1864, after nearly 2 months of back-breaking, silent work, the tunnel was complete. It snaked 50 feet long, emerging under a thicket of weeds outside the prison wall, a mere stone's throw from the barracks. The signal. The escape was scheduled for the night of February 9th. The prearranged signal for a man to enter the rat hole was a single, gentle cough. Starting at 9 p.m., the officers began their silent exodus. One by one, they descended into the darkness, crawling through the cramped, damp tunnel. For hours, a procession of Union officers slipped beneath the heart of the Confederacy's capital. The count: 109 officers entered the tunnel. Each man was instructed to head north toward the Union lines, or east toward the swamps, traveling only at night. The problem: the process was slow. As the night wore on, the risk of detection skyrocketed. But the men, galvanized by their success, refused to turn back. The final crawl. As dawn approached, the last few men scurried out. By 5 a.m., the escape was complete. The hole was quickly covered, and the 109 officers were gone. The Confederate reaction and the manhunt. The morning discovery was an absolute scandal for the Confederacy. The entire garrison was thrown into chaos. 109 of the Confederacy's highest value prisoners, including colonels, majors, and captains, had vanished. The Confederate press was aghast. The guards and administrators of Libby Prison were humiliated and threatened with execution. The subsequent manhunt was massive and brutal. Result of the manhunt? Of the 109 men, 59 successfully reached Union lines, making their way through hundreds of miles of hostile territory, aided by enslaved people and Union sympathizers who risked their lives to guide them. Recaptures. 48 men were recaptured, exhausted, starving, or betrayed. 2 men drowned in the icy waters of the James River while attempting to cross. The ultimate prize? Colonel Streight, the mastermind, was among the 59 who made it. He rejoined the Union Army and continued to serve until the war's end, a living testament to the Confederacy's colossal security failure. The escape, though resulting in less than half of the men permanently gaining freedom, was a propaganda victory that shook the South to its core. It proved that the legendary Confederate prison system was not invincible. It demoralized the guards and boosted the morale of every single Union soldier and prisoner across the country. The Libby Prison escape, the night 109 men became ghost riders, remains one of the greatest, most astonishing acts of courage and engineering ingenuity in American military history. A testament to the relentless human desire for freedom, even when buried 50 feet beneath the earth.